Hello and welcome. So I'm getting text messages that you guys can see me and hear me. Put in the comments if you can, because I still don't have a screen. But if you can hear me and see me, we will move forward anyway, and I will keep going about this anyway. So hopefully, let me know if you guys can hear me and see me in the comments. I know my team was texting me that you guys could hear me and see me. So if you can, just let me know in the comments so I know that I'm really there. I can't see anything. Let's see. Okay, you guys do see me. Thank you, Mandy. So, for those of you who don't know me or new to my channel, my name is Evelyn Knight. I am the founder and CEO of Child Care Business Professionals, which is a program that helps owners and directors learn how to successfully navigate child care centers. I really focus on the business side, and my passion is also to make sure that the children are getting what is best based on research based practices. I'm also the host of the Child Care Business Coach podcast, which, yes, we are relaunching. It has been difficult for me to get back into that one, but I will be relaunching that shortly. And I am also a child care center owner. That is what sets me apart from other coaches. The other thing that sets me apart from coaches in the other coaches out there is that my educational background is actually in psychology. So I combine what I teach in the business world with how people's brains work. And that is probably one of the things that have made my clients appreciate what I teach the most. That is probably the biggest feedback I get, is the fact that I come and I approach everything from a psychological standpoint and how do people think. So we're really breaking down that human side of things with the business side. So today I have a very important topic. I over the weekend and the last week, I've gotten the pleasure of speaking to a lot of ECE leaders. I am actually in Texas right now, so I'm in my hotel room still in Dallas to bring this to you today. But I got to speak to I got to speak to two different organizations on Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday it was a different organization. And one of the things I noticed is a recurring theme, not just a recurring theme, but more a recurring feeling. Just the temperatures out there. It's like in the EC world, and I don't think it's just the EC world. I think it's the world at large. We are seeing this huge amount of anxiety right now and stress that is happening. And I can feel the fear that is really permeating in our society right now. If you didn't watch last week's, make sure you watch last week, because I really want you to understand that a lot of this fear that we're suffering from is because we are suffering from information overload. It is just too much. And what I'm watching happen is that a lot of people are basically banding together, and we're feeding ourselves these narratives, right? So with the two conferences that I spoke at this weekend and last week, that was the biggest thing I noticed, is that everybody is getting together and they're really just venting. And I get venting is healthy. It is absolutely healthy. But the problem that I'm seeing with this is that there is so much negativity that we're just really engulfing ourselves in this negativity. And that negativity is leading to despair and paranoia, right? And that is what I think honestly causes fear for me. It's not what's happening out there. It's the collective attitude that we're bringing in because we're feeding these narratives to ourselves. I was with some amazing women this weekend, and when in the professional setting, when we were as a group, all I kept hearing was how bad things are. And I just kept hearing the struggles. And yes, I'm going through that too. And yes, I can relate. And yes, it is bad. And yes, there are struggles. And yes, it is good for us to vent to each other. That's good. But like everything, we have to put limits on it. We have to also see that there is a lot of good out there. And unfortunately, right now, we are so hyper focused on what isn't working and what is good that that is consuming us at this point. We are absolutely consumed with the negativity. So I really want you to stop and think about that and watch last week if you haven't already. I really talk about that information overload and just how it's taking us over. And I definitely think that after the presentations I've done over the last couple days, that this is even more important than what I realized when I recorded that video last week. So make sure you watch that. I want to repeat one thing I said last week too, is 80% of what we fear and what we worry about never comes to fruition. As I sat through church yesterday, I had the pleasure of going to church with my niece that lives here in the Dallas area. Ironically, the church service was about fear. I think everybody is feeling this collective fear, right? And as I sat there listening, I realized a lot of things. The pastor was preaching. It was a wonderful service. It was Church 1132 in Allen, Texas. I got to give them credit for what their amazing service yesterday. But I realized a few different things. We allow fear to cripple us. We allow our past and our circumstances to really make us fear moving forward, right? And that's okay. I mean, we need to learn from history, but we can't allow history to stop us from living, right? We can't allow it. Otherwise, we'll be paralyzed and we're never going to move forward in the world. So yesterday, as I was in church, I was listening to the pastor talk about fear. And he was talking about, giving it to God and the things that we all say and do. And I realized that all the things he was saying were amazing and wonderful. And I realized that sometimes our biggest fears, they do happen. They do, right? If you've been following me, I lost my husband in July. That was something I prayed for a lot. I asked God, please intervene. Please don't let this happen. And it did happen. So as I sat there listening to the testimony, what the pastor was preaching, and he just, give it to God, pray. I was afraid of, and all the different things that people are afraid of. And the point he was making is a lot of the same thing I make, in that 80% of what we fear doesn't ever happen. So we let life's fears cripple us, and then it never happens, right? But then as I sat there listening to him, I realized, but it did happen to me. It did happen to me. The thing I feared, I did live through it. And I had this moment of realization that, yes, it happened, but I lived through it and I'm walking through it, right? I am living. There is life afterwards. So we allow our fears and the things we're scared of to cripple us. And I will tell you, I am huge with this. I'm totally transparent with you guys. I'm always very, very transparent. I try to be. I don't ever want you to think I am something I'm not. So most of you know, I have been going through a lot of therapy. I started before my husband passed away, since we knew he was terminal and I knew I would be losing him. And I'm still in therapy now, just navigating new life after what I've been through. And I realized that fear still has a huge hold on me. And even though I do appear to have it all together, and I know if you guys watched, I recorded a video on my anniversary so that you guys could see my transparency. But even though it may feel like I have it together, and it may to you, because you see a snippet of my life, right? There are areas where it still is crippling. And I was thinking as I sat there in this church service listening about fear, and there's a couple points that came to my mind, and I realized that in certain ways I'm doing amazing. I'm doing wonderful. And I am living after my worst fears came true, right? Sometimes your worst fears do come true. but life goes on and I'm thriving afterwards and I'm building amazing things. But I also realize that there's areas that I am allowing the storms of my past to influence my future. There are areas of my life where I am afraid to move into the future because I'm afraid of the past, right? And I think that is big for many of us, where we allow so much of our past to just make us freeze. And we're afraid to move forward. We're afraid to make decisions. We're afraid to take a stand because of what happened to us in the past. And the first thought that I had in my mind was, well, I'm learning from history, right? That's why I'm frozen. I'm frozen in certain areas because I'm just learning from my past. And I had to stop myself and have a brain check moment, which I tell you guys all the time, check your brain, check your brain. And I had to have that brain check moment and ask myself, as I'm sitting there in church, is that just an excuse? Are you saying that because you're so scared? You are the one sitting here in this church that the pastor is talking to right now. Because even though you teach fear management, all of these things, there are areas in your life where you are allowing fear to cripple you. You can't move forward, yet you're hiding it under the disguise of, yeah, but I'm not going to allow history to repeat itself. Right? So I challenge you to ask yourself, are you in that same boat? Where are you allowing the past to cripple you in fear? As an owner who faced bankruptcy and almost lost my center, I know how crippling it is, how terrifying it is when you can't pay your bills, when you don't know how you're going to make payroll, when you're short staffed, when you are so short staffed that you don't know how you're going to make ratios, right? Or you may have to close off to drop ins because you can't make ratio. I know how terrifying it is in the beginning of COVID, not knowing if you're going to stay open, if you're going to close. Every single one of these things will cripple us with fear. I've been there. I know what it's like to lead teams. I know what it feels like to need to fire somebody, but they are one of your best teachers and the parents adore that teacher. But the toxic energy that they're bringing within your staff is poisoning the rest of the staff to the point that they're more of a harm than they are somebody who's moving you forward. I know how scary that is. I've been there. And you're just terrified that you're already financially insecure. You already don't know how you're going to pay your bills. And if you lose this teacher and 5 children go with them and they start their own business in their home, what are you going to do? I've been there, done that. I know what that feels like. So a lot of times when we're in those situations, we allow that fear to overcome us and we don't take the actions we need to take. And we stay stuck in this stagnant spot, right? We just stay stuck. And I believe with all my heart that right now, we in ECE are stuck in a stagnant spot of our own making. We have caused the stagnation that we are stuck in right now because we are crippling ourselves with the fear that I can't hire, I can't manage these children, the behavior problems are out of control, the parents are out of control, and we are leaving the field in droves. What I heard over and over and over during both trainings that I did was, I don't know how I'm going to keep doing this. And I also know a lot of great directors and owners that are quitting, selling their centers, quitting as directors, because they're allowing this fear to overcome them. So I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I want to make these quick and easy so you can just really see some change in your life. So I'm just going to give you some tips to help control these fears and so that you can move forward. Because if we don't start moving forward, we're not going to make it. I really want you guys to think about that. In your professional career, if you keep allowing your focus to stay on what is causing you fear, you're not going to make it. You just can't take it. We can't take anymore. It's too much. So again, watch my video from last week. First tip I'm going to give you is be careful for information overload. There is enough stress in life. It is stressful enough without us obsessing over what's happening in the news. Remember, there is always a disaster in our world, always. And the news media gets paid to create fear. Whenever there's something going on in the world, they actually charge more for advertising. It is their job to keep you hooked on the news, right? So if you're one of those people who have the news on in the backwards 24/7, put a limit on it. Yes, I believe it's important to be informed, but I only allow myself now 30 minutes. 30 minutes a day, you're going to have enough. 30 minutes a day is enough news, right? You're going to know everything that happens. You don't need to obsess. You have enough problems, and it is just bringing us down. Same thing with social media, especially if you're in these Facebook groups, you guys. I cannot tell you, when I go and I start looking, just, if I'm bored, if I'm scrolling through Facebook and one of the social media accounts comes up for like an owner director Facebook group, the negativity in those groups is just mind blowing to me. How negative childcare center owners and directors can become blows my mind. And that is not helping you. If you go to my group, my Childcare Business Professionals Facebook group, which many of you guys are probably watching this on, I know I'm streaming to like 7 or 8 different platforms right now. We do make sure that we keep that a positive group. It is actively just supposed to be business. So if you really need true perspective, but we keep the complaining out because it is not helping any of us. It is not. So if that is what you're engrossing yourself in, get out of those groups, you guys. Get yourself out of that negativity. I go through these groups sometimes and oh my gosh, if you only knew, I'm just like, oh, what is going on? These people don't even like children. Why are they in childcare if they don't even like children? Right? I read some of these and I'm like, what are they doing? And so I'm at the point now, I can't even go into them anymore. I can't handle it because it stresses me out. It's just so negative and it focuses on so much negativity. And I look at it and think, no wonder our industry has this collective stress because that's all we're spreading. We're not spreading how wonderful it is to care for children anymore, right? So watch the information you're allowing to come into your mind. Where is your focus? If you honestly look at your center, at your problem children and your problem teachers, how many of them are there really? Right? If you have 10 staff and you're having problems with one, is that one or even two? Are they really worth all of your energy instead of focusing on the ones who are doing a wonderful job? If you have 50 children enrolled in your center and you have, let's say, 5 children that are really difficult, are they really worth all your attention? What about the 45 who are doing wonderful, right? Watch where you are focusing. We tend to hyper focus on that negativity. So really watch that and force yourself every day to find the positive, to find the teacher that's doing a stellar job and recognize them, right? If you're finding that your entire staff is just not doing it, then you probably need to hire me. I can tell you right now, if your entire staff is a problem, you need to become a member of my program because I was once the owner. I have to take accountability here. I was once the owner who walked into my center and said, they all need to go. They're all awful. I need to fire all of them. I'm here about 7 years later, and over half my staff are the same people. It was me. It was not them. It was my leadership. It was not my staff. So if that is a problem, you've got to look inside. I know that's some tough love there, but you really do have to look at you as a leader if it's everybody. Because if it's everybody but you, maybe it's not them. So the next thing I would really caution you is don't allow the storms of the future, the storms of the past dictate your future. So don't let those storms of your past experience, cripple you from moving forward in the future. watch what you're feeding your brain. Find those positive things to just really engulf. This is why I do this every Monday. I want to start your work week out in a positive area where you can really focus on what you should be focusing on instead of the exhaustion and negativity that our world is hyper focused on right now. There is always going to be a disaster, whether it's COVID, whether it's a tsunami, an earthquake, a tornado, the war in Ukraine. There is always something happening in our world. We cannot allow it to dictate our life. I used to be a huge news addict. I told you guys last week, news on 24/7. I've cut myself off. I allow myself 30 minutes of the news every day and about 45 minutes on social media. I just had to cut it off. And so those are basically the tips that I have for you today. And also just keep your brain in check. Really question your own thoughts and ask, is this thought really helping me moving forward, or is it hindering me? You guys know I'm a God girl. I am totally engrossed in, and it's hard for me to separate a lot of times, even though I don't judge what you believe. I don't try and push my beliefs on everybody or anybody really. It is just such a core part of me. One of the things that the pastor said in the church service yesterday that I want to share with you guys, and I want you to really think about, and just as in closing, a little bit of a change of perspective, is in Psalms 23, which is probably the most famous Psalms, right? And for a wonderful reason. It says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. One of the things the pastor said that really jumped out to me, and whether you're a Christian or not, this does pertain to you, to everybody. In that passage, David says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I think the thing we need to remember is that we're walking through the valleys. And that was something I took from church yesterday, so I'm not going to take credit for it. It's a church that I went to with my niece. So we walk through the valleys. We don't stay stuck there. We don't stand in the valley. We don't allow ourselves to stay stuck in the valley. We walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So just keep that in mind. Are you walking through the valley, or are you choosing to stay frozen in the valley? Ask yourself that. If you're new to me also, and if you don't know, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up now, but in half an hour and 30 minutes, I am going to be live again, bringing to you guys my proven childcare enrollment formula. I'm basically going to be teaching you how I got my center to a waitlist status and why I don't struggle for enrollment. I don't advertise for enrollment, which in the beginning, I will say you might want to advertise for enrollment. But at this point in my career, I'm opening another center because my waitlist is so huge that I literally can basically duplicate my center and fill it with children. So I literally have people who drive from neighboring towns to drop their children off, like 45 minutes one way. They drop their child off at my center, go back to their hometown, work, and then drive back to drop their child off at my center or pick them up. So if you want to join us, that would be awesome. It's happening in 30 minutes. I am kind of discombobulated right now because I'm not on my normal time zone, but I do know it's coming in 30 minutes. And there will be a replay available for you guys. So if you're watching the replay of this video and can't make it live, there will be recordings of the preschool or the proven childcare enrollment formula coming up for you guys. We are only leaving that up for about a week. Okay, so make sure you get that in this week. This is something I normally charge for. And since I'm giving it away to the EC community for free, I'm only giving it away for 1 week. So make sure that you take the opportunity this week. We are going to be live every single day at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which here in Texas, what time is it here in Texas? 10:30. So it's going to be 11 a.m. in Central Time. So make sure you join us, and all week long, if you can't watch us live, make sure you watch the replays sometime before next Tuesday when the videos come down. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and this air conditioning keeps blowing in my face. It's driving me crazy. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Bye, everybody.